What's going on, YouTube? This is another episode of TEW 2016, WWF 1987, The Price of Hulkamania, and it's WWF Raw being held in front of 18,163 people at the Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. And this is the final week of April 1987. And this coming Saturday will be Saturday night's main event. So this is basically a hype show for that upcoming NBC special this coming Saturday night in Game Time. And we open Monday Night Raw with a decent match. King Kong Bundy defeated George the Animal Steele in 8:14 by pinfall with a big splash. Steele had an in-ring performance of 59, Bundy 65, got a 61C rating. Next segment, we have a interview at the stage with Mean Gene Okerlund with the Bobby the Brain Heenan family, with Hercules, King Harley Race, and Ken Patera. And Heenan basically talks about how, there's been shakeups within the Bobby the Brain Heenan family recently, how he kicked Mr. Blunderful Paul Orndorff to the curb once again, and he brought in Ravishing Rick Rude. However, unfortunately, last week, Rick Rude suffered an injury while training in the gym like he does each and every day, and he will be out for the foreseeable future. And he goes on to state that while this is a setback for the Bobby the Brain Heenan family, they will not falter, and he is currently scouting for new members of his family. So while right now there's 3 of them, and not forgetting about Bundy, who just wrestled, and he's, celebrating his victory, there will be new members in the upcoming future. So basically, what happened was when I went to go run my Superstars of Wrestling show last week in Game Time, Rick Rude actually showed up to the show high on painkillers. So I had to send him to rehab. So basically, it's a kayfabe injury. I don't want, them to say, oh yeah, he's high on painkillers. So this injury is basically, unfortunately, writing Rick Rude off for the foreseeable future, which really sucks. I don't know. The mod maker set a lot of these guys to have painkillers, issues in 1987, when I don't think a lot of them really had those kind of issues. Guys like Rick Rude, stuff like that wouldn't have come until later on in their careers. So 1987, because here's another thing. When I went to start booking Raw for this episode, none other than James J. Dillon showed up high on painkillers, so I sent him to rehab. Yeah, and I don't know, hearing anything about J.J. Dillon in real life having an issue with that, so I don't know where that came from, and that kind of baffles me. But the way I'm running it, I do not want people showing up high on painkillers or any other kind of drug. So, low tolerance, I send them to rehab. So right now, Orndorff's in rehab, Dillon's in rehab, Rude's in rehab. I think there might be a few others in rehab. I don't know. There's a lot of toxic people backstage right now in my game. It's currently at a 0% backstage rating. That is bad. But, just like anything, you gotta persevere, and that's what I'm gonna do. Just play it by ear, and that whatever shows up, I'll handle it as best as I can. But I figured I'd explain why all of these changes, because Orndorff getting fired, he brings in Rick Rude, and now all of a sudden he's gone. Well, that explains it. But that got a 58 C- rating. Oh shoot, I forgot that I had Hercules Iskandar Akbar now. So technically, Hercules isn't even with the Bobby Heenan family. I completely spaced that. I guess that's kind of what happens when you go so long without playing it. Sometimes you forget little things that, I set. But, so basically now it's down to Harley Race, Ken Patera, and King Kong Bundy. And I guess Andre the Giant, because he's just technically not on camera right now because he's kayfabe vacationing, clearing his head after losing to Hogan at WrestleMania 3. So yeah, there's going to be changes to the Bobby Heenan family. I just don't know who I'm going to add as of yet. That will come at a later date. So that got a 58 C- rating. And we move on. Our next match, in a bout that had decent wrestling but didn't have much heat, Rick Martel defeated Butch Reed in 11:34 when Butch Reed was disqualified when Tom Zink ran in and attacked Martel. Reed and Martel had pretty good chemistry and it lifted the match. Reed had an angry performance of 56, Martel 49. Reed is improving his rumble skills. The match got a 55 C- rating. And then after the match, both Butch Reed and Dom Zink are double teaming Rick Martel. When out from the back, Tito Santana comes out and he fends off Zink and Reed and scurries them off to the back, and he helps Martel off to his feet. So, yeah, maybe a tag team match is on the horizon. Possibly as soon as this coming Saturday for Saturday night's main event. And then the segment got a 46D rating. And our next match, in a decent match, the Magnificent Morocco defeated Coco Beware in 11:18 by pinfall with a Tombstone Piledriver. Coco and Morocco had pretty good chemistry. Coco had an angry performance of 49, Morocco 62, no worker improvements. The match got a 64C rating. Next segment is the Brother Love Show with his guests Randy Macho Man Savage and Miss Elizabeth. And basically, this is Savage, reminding everyone that he's still after Ricky Steamboat, and he feels that Steamboat is ducking him for giving him a rematch, so Savage can reclaim what is rightfully his, the Intercontinental Championship. And Brother Love points out that at Saturday night's main event, this coming Saturday night, Ricky Steamboat will be defending the Intercontinental Championship against the guy we just saw in action, the Magnificent Morocco, who is also a former Intercontinental Champion. As Savage is just like, well, I'm going to be watching that match very carefully, and Steamboat, if he happens to, eke by with the victory, he's still got to answer to the madness. So the segment got a 71 C+ rating. And then we move on to the next match, in a poor match. Demolition defeated the Young Stallions in 6:36 when Demolition Axe defeated Jim Powers by pinfall with a running clothesline. So Axe has healed from his injury, so this is actually his second match back. They had a match on Wrestling Challenge the other day, but this is his first match back on Monday Night Raw. Jim Powers had an angry performance of 40, Roma 40, Smash 52, and Axe 55. And Axe is improving his performance skills. The match got a 53 C- rating. And the next segment is another vignette for Bad News Brown. It shows him walking along the streets of Harlem, New York, and basically, talking once again about how he survived the mean streets of Harlem all of his life, and he's coming to the World Wrestling Federation to treat, the World Wrestling Federation like the streets of Harlem, and he's going to take what he wants. He's going to beat up any fools that gets in his way, and he's going to do on his own because he doesn't need anyone. So that segment got a 51D- rating. So Bad News Brown is coming to the World Wrestling Federation here soon. And our next match, in a poor match, Brutus the Barber Beefcake defeated the Assassin in 7:04 by pinfall, by submission with a sleeper hold. The Assassin had an in-ring performance of 39, Beefcake 56, no worker improvements. The match got a 54 C- rating. And then after the match, Greg the Hammer Valentine and Dino Bravo come in and they jump Beefcake, beating him down. And remember, there's bad blood there after all the issues the Dream Team had, and Beefcake turning face. So this is just them, attacking Beefcake and getting one up on him. And the segment got a 47D rating. And then we move on to our next match, in a decent match. Jake the Snake Roberts and the Rougeau brothers defeated the First Family, which is the Honky Tonk Man, and the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team Champions, the Hart Foundation, at 16:43 when Jacques Rougeau defeated Jim Neidhart by pinfall. Roberts had an in-ring performance of 82, Raymond Rougeau 48, Jacques Rougeau 49, the Honky Tonk Man 63, Jim Neidhart 56, and Bret Hart 64. Honky Tonk Man is improving in flying skills, Jacques in technical, and Jake Roberts in performance skills. The match got a 74 B- rating, so a pretty good match there. And in our next segment, we get a hype package promoting Saturday night's main event and a couple of the feature matches, which is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat defending the World Wrestling Federation Intercontinental Championship against former champion, the Magnificent Morocco. And just announced, it will be the Hart Foundation defending the World Wrestling Federation Tag Team titles against #1 contenders, the Rougeau brothers, Jacques and Raymond. And that segment got a 68 C+ rating. And in a decent match, Billy Jack Haynes defeated Cowboy Bob Orton Jr. 17:25 by submission with the full Nelson. Orton had an in-ring performance of 62, Billy Jack 54, no worker improvements, and it got a 67 C+ rating. And then our main event segment, Mean Gene is conducting an interview with Hulk Hogan. His first, interview since being attacked by Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, and he basically talks about how, he realizes he has a target on his back, and he challenges Arn and Tully to a match, whenever that they want to step up, and whenever their friend wants to come, have the guts to show up and face Hogan one-on-one, then he's, up for the challenge, and he's come back from bigger obstacles in the past, and he will, down them like he's downed everyone else in his last, 3+ year reign as WWF champion. And at this point, Ivan Koloff shows up on the podium and confronts Hulk Hogan, and Ivan goes, this is the big bad American hero Hulk Hogan. I know you've had a lot of problems with people jumping you and talking a big game, how they're going to, annihilate you and take your World Wrestling Federation Championship from you. However, this is different because I'm here to let you know that my nephew is going to be here, and he is going to take that World Wrestling Federation Championship back to our homeland of Mother Russia. And Hogan's like, listen here, if you want to come here and talk about America, and you want to try to take my World Wrestling Federation Championship, face me like a man. Don't give this big aura of mystery like Arn Tully did. If this big bad dude so wants to, show up and try to take this title from me, then he needs to do it instead of bringing messengers and just, face me head on. And I was like, well, once again, we Russians, we are men of our words, and we don't do things in code. We don't, hide in secrecy. And this leads to Nikita Koloff coming and jumping Hulk Hogan. And then Ivan and Nikita Koloff double team Hulk Hogan, and they give him an assisted Russian sickle onto the concrete floor. And from there, they proceed to take the Russian flag and drape it over the body of Hulk Hogan. So Nikita Koloff and Ivan Koloff have debuted and attacked Hulk Hogan, making the attentions known that Nikita Koloff wants that World Wrestling Federation Championship. So here's the thing. I know Tully and Arn, they debuted a couple weeks back in Game Time, and they, basically did the same thing. They jumped Hogan and they laid him, left him laying. However, this is more a definitive feud for right now, because if you remember, they're saying Arn and Tully didn't say when their person is coming, but sometime. And that was just a warning shot. But this was, serious, real deal stuff. And if you know the title of the series, The Price of Hulkamania. So it's a central theme. What's the price of Hulkamania? First, he just fended off the challenge of Andre the Giant. Then he got Arn and Tully debuting and attacking him 2-on-1 and left him laying. And now Ivan and Nikita Koloff debuted and attacked Hogan and left him laying. And this is going to tie in to future plans I have for Hogan down the road. This is all going to tie together. It may not make sense. It may seem like everything's coming at once. Tully and Arn, and now Ivan and Nikita within weeks. But there's a reason for it. Actually, more than one reason for it. But this is all going to tie together. But Nikita Koloff debuted his comrade gimmick and got an initial rating very good. No worker improvements. The segment got a 71C+ rating. And then we end this. This is the post-show battle royal, which was won by Roddy Piper in 1755. Last eliminating Randy Savage. Randy Savage hurt his shoulder. It just says Damon's shoulder, so I think it's just a token injury, which shouldn't hopefully, last too long. But overall, the show got a 68C+ rating. But yeah, that will do it for this episode. The next episode will be Saturday night's main event. So until then, take care.